So let's talk about Hollywood Strings too, and why we thought it was necessary to do it. We've done 2 full orchestras. Symphonic Orchestra was done in a 2,500 seat concert hall. It had this magnificent big sound. Hollywood Strings was done in our Studio 1, very famous room, lots and lots of great orchestral work done in that room. And then it became necessary to do something that was more close-up and intimate, hence this collection. So when we're working on these projects, typically Nick and I divide our responsibilities. He focuses on the musical side, the articulations, and I tend to focus more on the sound that we're going for. For this one, I really wanted to get a drier, closer, more in-your-face sound, because I'd looked at the other collections that were out there, and I think they attempted to do that, but to my ears, they weren't close enough. I wanted something where you're actually in the sound hole of the instrument.
This type of sound, the tight, warm, smaller string section, is something that actually really hasn't been perfected. There's sort of a lot of deficiencies in what's been attempted in the past. In Hollywood Strings, we pioneered a few techniques as far as how to play playable runs and faster passages, and really capturing fortissimo, which has been something that we've always been a leader in. You'll see that in this library, but even more so. And we've also pioneered some new techniques that have now made it here.
If you are going for that very up-close, intimate sound, you want to literally be on the instrument. If you're doing horror films, for example, a Bernard Herrmann soundtrack like Psycho, you don't want any room ambience. You don't want that big Star Wars hall sound that Shawn Murphy, who we work with, is famous for. We wanted something that was literally right here in ears. And we decided we would not use Studio 1, which is typically what we've done in the past, and we would go into Studio 2, which is a much drier acoustic.
This room is really unique. As far as getting a tight string sound, there's nothing like this room, as far as it's the warmth and balance.
If we consider why we chose this room to do the collection, it's a little unusual because it's the rock room at EastWest Studio. It's the room that produced massive hits, from AC/DC, Muse, R.E.M. Red Hot Chili Peppers spent years in this room making various albums. Rage Against the Machine, Weezer, Blink-182, Sum 41, Metallica, and more recently Lizzo and Olivia Rodrigo. It's a strange thing to choose this room to do strings. But if you go back into the history of the studio, back in the 60s, it was also the room where the Beverly Hillbillies soundtrack was done. Green Acres, Hawaii Five-0. It just goes on and on and on. So it did have a pedigree in terms of having strings recorded in here. But I think we're the first to actually do this in here, to actually create a virtual instrument that has the versatility of a drier room and achieve the goal that we set out to do, which is basically fill in the gap that was missing between our symphonic orchestra, Hollywood orchestra, and now this. So now we have huge acoustic, medium acoustic, small acoustic. So our users don't have to go to any other collection to be able to do anything they want to do.
We've learned a lot from our previous ventures into orchestral sampling, and in this library, there's a consistency to all the articulations and all the sections that makes the library really a pleasure to use. What we recorded here in Studio 2 is something that will go along well with what we recorded in Studio 1, the original Hollywood Strings. Even though this is a much more intimate sound, it is easily transformed into something that can be mixed and used with Hollywood Strings 1, but of course it is its own thing entirely.
We set the room up to try and achieve that balance of intimacy and also have enough space for the instruments to bloom, because typically when you're recording orchestral instruments, you don't want a microphone down the hole of the instrument. You want the instrument to merge with the acoustic of the room, and that forms a much more pleasant sound, and it's also a sound that most listeners are more familiar with. And of course, once you get into a big concert hall, like we did with symphonic orchestra, it's a whole different ballgame. You could be sitting in row 10 of that concert hall, and it's a complete sort of 50-50 merge of the instrument sound and the hall that's making the sound. So we didn't want that, absolutely didn't want that. So I had a pre-production meeting with Shawn Murphy. Shawn also did the sound engineering on the Hollywood Orchestra series. Brilliant sound engineer. Hundreds and hundreds of massive blockbuster hits that he's recorded and mixed. Virtually all the John Williams soundtracks. So he brings to the table an immense amount of experience in terms of giving people the ultimate sound that they're after. Now, Shawn he worked on all the Star Wars series. He worked on the Indiana Jones franchise, Harry Potter, Titanic. I mean, it just goes on and on. You know, look him up. There's just hundreds and hundreds of incredible soundtracks that he's worked on. And I said, Shawn, I want to do something completely different this time. I want to go completely opposite to what you normally try and achieve. And I want to be in the sound hole. You know, I want to be that close. But we'll also fill it out with other mics. We want to add some room. And so he came up with the idea of putting clip-ons on all the instruments using DPA mics, which are made specifically for that purpose. And that just sounded incredible.
Shawn had a very unique perspective in how to record this room, and I think it makes the library very versatile because of the way that everything from clip-on microphones all the way to really warm-sounding Deca-tree configurations. There's a lot of versatility and flexibility in what you can do with the sound.
The user gets access to all of these different mic positions, so they can have it literally in the sound hole, or they can have a full-on Dolby Atmos mix, and anywhere in between. Shawn also did the Psycho remake, which is kind of part of the sound that we were going for here. The kind of fingers down a chalkboard sound, you know, something that really disturbed you, that you can only really get when it's not pleasant to listen to. You can do that with this collection as well.
Hollywood Strings, too, is really versatile. I mean, the kind of sound that you can get out of it, even though we have smaller sections, it's a very wide spectrum of sound that enables you to, first of all, mix this with bigger sounding libraries like Hollywood Strings or anything else, but also get a very intimate, expressive kind of a sound.
I think the Hollywood Strings 2 is a complete opposite collection to Hollywood Strings, in that it's designed more for kind of the horror, romanticism, total intimacy, when you need strings that provide just an oral atmosphere, but they're not everywhere like you have in a blockbuster movie. It's very, very useful, I think, for people, media composers that need, and game composers that don't want that kind of bombastic sound that just sort of hits every wall.
I think this library takes it up to another notch like you haven't seen before.
You now have something where you can have like a dark, romantic, intimate scene, or you can have a psycho-type horror film, and you can have strings and acoustics to match what you're looking at. So, really, really happy with the way that it turned out, and I think you will be too.